5 is called Kayla's Day, and the purpose of this activity is to teach students to identify specific daily activities that can spread germs and bacteria. And by going through the activity, students will understand the importance of proper hand washing to prevent the spread of disease. So what we need to take part in this activity is the lesson plan, which is in the binder or can be downloaded from the website. And within that, there are some sheets that you'll want to turn into overheads. They come with the package. It says Kayla's Day overhead, so all you have to do is photocopy it onto overhead paper. And the last thing in the appendix section is a sheet that's going to say infection alert. So I've photocopied a number of these and cut them out to be individual cards, so that rather than using the original, which stays with the binder, I'm using handouts that can be reused and reused without concern. So what I'm going to explain to the students is that I'm going to be illustrating a chain of infection, and whenever we come to a point in the story where they think germs can spread from person to person, so it's an infection alert time that they need to raise their card in the air. I'll ask for 10 volunteers because there's 10 sections to the story, and each one of these volunteers comes up to the front of the class and stands and will get an opportunity to read one section of the story. The rest of the class are the ones with the infection alert cards. So their job is to sit in the audience and when they listen to the story, to raise their infection alert card in the air when they think germs have spread. Now naturally in some classes, there isn't a large enough student base to have 10 people up front and still people in the audience. So you can choose a smaller number of students to read, or in some situations where it works better, the teacher will read through the story themselves and the students are all going to be responsible for raising the infection alert cards in the air. So there are a few different ways that you can do this depending on what's going to work best for your students and your classroom. So we're going to go through the first couple of sections just to give you an idea of how this is going to work. Okay, so section number 1 of the story. Kayla is feeling sick today. She's all stuffed up, and on top of it, the scratches she got on her hands last week from her cat pumpkin are stinging, and they don't look so good. They are infected. She wishes she could stay home, but the grade 4 and 5 class are going on an outing to the Friendship Center for an afternoon with the elders, and she wouldn't miss it for the world. Her grandfather is going to tell the story of Nana Bush. She just loves that story. She's so proud of him. She gets up and doesn't tell anyone she's not feeling well. Her mother prepares her breakfast. Since she's not feeling so well, she eats some of it, and her brother is only too happy to finish her plate. Kayla then goes to the bathroom, washes her hands and face, and then dries them with a towel on the towel bar. She then brushes her teeth and neatly puts her brush back in the dedicated jar with the 6 other family toothbrushes. So at this point, there's a few opportunities for students to have raised their infection alert cards in the air. Hopefully we're going to notice, number 1, that the fact that she's sharing her breakfast with her brother means that all of the germs that went from her mouth back onto her plate have just gone into her brother because he's sharing the same food, so there's a chance of transmission there. The second one is because she has had a toothbrush that's gone into her mouth and then put it back in the jar with other toothbrushes. Her toothbrush is up against the other ones, and especially because it's wet, it's a great opportunity for germs to spread. So whenever we're sick, it is important to keep our toothbrush separate. So students will have raised this in the air. So then you would continue through all 10 scenarios, and at the end, give the students an opportunity to ask how many people in the story, as you kind of go back through the story, did they think Kayla might have infected? And again, it's a bit of an estimate. You don't have to have specific numbers because you don't know really how big the classes were and things like that. But it shows how one person can transmit germs to multiple people. Then you can ask them what Kayla could have done throughout her day to stop the spread of germs. A few things that I'm going to point out that are in the binder. Number 1 is that for your information, in this story, Kayla has the beginning of the flu. Now, it doesn't say that, it just says she's getting sick. But with the flu, an infected person spreads a disease through contact with a person's body fluids. The best way to prevent it is for thorough hand washing, to cover your cough, so again with your sleeve or with a tissue, and if she uses her hand, to wash her hands immediately. Now the scratches that she got on her skin from her cat pumpkin are a type of resistant bacteria that causes sickness or infection. And this is called MRSA, or methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which is one of the superbugs that we have spreading out not only in hospitals but also through communities. So the scratches on her hands are infected with this bacteria. And again, the best way for Kayla to prevent the spread of bacteria is to wash her hands thoroughly with soap and water on a regular basis, not to share towels, to share clothing or other personal items, and to cover up her sores so that they don't spread on to other people. Now, in some classes, if you have one student who is maybe the leader in class who's raising their infection alert card in the air, it's going to cause a bit of a chain reaction, and the other students are going to look at this person, and as soon as the one hand goes in the air, all the rest of them are going to follow. So if you have a concern that this is what's going to happen in your class and the students are kind of going to be playing follow the leader rather than really paying attention to the intent of the activity, another option, rather than having them raise these, is to have them each pull out a piece of paper and to put a tick on the piece of paper every time they think that germs have spread. Then when you've read through the scenario, you've talked about, again, how many people could be infected, ways Kayla could prevent the spread of germs, either get the students all to hand in their piece of paper and you can see who was accurate in how many infection alert incidents there were, or have them say it out loud. So this way you don't have the follow the leader and the students are actually paying attention and doing it themselves. So there are always a few ways to adapt the story.